to hear what he said.
Hello from the MKN Stadium, where it is freezing. The weather is horrible, and if you've been here this afternoon, absolute full credit, because it has been not a pleasant experience. And Hull City beaten again. I think the best way to sum up today's game is probably the way to sum up Hull City's season. They were 1-0 down for 80 minutes to a team that didn't have a shot on goal. Correct. That is exactly how it played out. The only goal of the game for Blackburn came, after 20 minutes. It was a cross from Callum Britton, a cross goal, and it hit Sean McLoughlin and went in the back of the net. So for 80 minutes, City were behind, having not conceded a single shot on their goal, and they've ultimately ended up losing the game. So sixth straight defeat, 11 games without a win, and they are now bottom of the table. Over to you, Ruben Selles. The new manager was here today. He was at the stadium. He was introduced before kick-off from the warmth of the director's box here. And I've got to be honest, I think largely he will have been impressed with what he saw. First half, I thought City played well. They had a better structure. They were more... Everything was a bit more normal compared to what we saw under the previous manager. They had a better feel about them. They had a better setup, a better shape. They had players playing in the right positions. Ryan Giles there was 5 changes. Ryan Giles was in on the left-hand side of the back four. Abu Kamara was playing on the right-hand side of the right wing. We had Ruben Slater. I've suddenly made him Spanish. We've had Regan Slater and Gustavo Puerta in the double pivot. We had Casey Palmer in the number 10 role. We had Ryan Longman on his preferred left-hand side of the wing. We had Charlie Hughes back in the team after his 1-game suspension alongside Sean McLoughlin. Alfie Jones was out injured, as was Xavier Simons. The other 3 dropped to the bench. Now, as I say, City played well in the first half. They carved out a host of chances. Probably should have scored. Kamara had a really good chance, albeit a really good block. Chris Bedia had a chance which was blocked again. Casey Palmer had a beautiful free kick after Bedia was fouled, and he clipped it top corner. The goalkeeper, Ainsley Pears, made a really good save. There were other nearly moments, balls fizzing around and going wide and what have you. But look, ultimately, City are in the position they are, and we all know, we've all watched enough football to know that when things are going for you, a la Blackburn, the ball cannons in off Sean McLoughlin and goes in the back of the net. At the other end, City, the ball cannons off a Blackburn defender and goes over the bar, or it skids into the goalkeeper's hands, and it doesn't go in the back of the net. I've always been a bit like Andy Dawson, who I've just spoke to, a firm believer that you make your own luck. And, you know, let's be honest, they've had 19 games. They're bottom of the league for a reason, because they've not been very good. They haven't been very good at the back, and they haven't been very good up front. Actually, today, defensively, they were actually really good. You know, they limited a Blackburn side that have come away, that's now 4 straight wins for Blackburn, and they've gone 6th. A Blackburn team that have gone away to Middlesbrough and won. A Blackburn team that last weekend beat Leeds United. And we all know, as much as it pains us to say it, Leeds United are probably going to get promoted. So, you know, this is a Blackburn team that are in very, very good form. And they've limited Blackburn to nothing, basically. I think Blackburn's first shot on target came in, it was well after the 80th minute, and it was a low effort that Pandor easily saved. You know, their only goal has come from a deflection. So you have to look, we can criticise City, and there are a lot of things to criticise them about. Defensively today, I thought they did well. Yeah, you could argue in the build-up to the goal they could have done better. Well, of course, every goal you concede, somebody could have done something better. That's just the nature of the beast. But I liked a lot of what they did. They had a lot more balance. Casey Palmer played well. You know, he was unlucky to come off, but as I asked Dawes why he came off, he felt that Blackburn was starting to get a bit of a hold in the game. Palmer had run himself into the ground, and he needed to make a change. He's got Abdouche and João Pedro on the bench. He was looking for a goal. He tried to change it and freshen it up, and I get that. You know, I do think Palmer was good today, and he looked the one capable of scoring a goal. Look, we can't. Let me just give me a second to scroll back to see who's just said it. Danny's asking where are the goals coming from. Look, I can't agree more, Danny. They've scored 17 goals in 19 games, lowest scorers in the league. They don't look like scoring. They just don't look like scoring. And there was a moment in the second half, Palmer did really well again to create a chance for Chris Bedia, and he just froze. The ball came to him, 8 yards out, and he stood there like, what the hell do I do? And that is the problem. They've got Burstow, who came off the bench and scored last week, came off the bench today and couldn't get on the ball. João Pedro came off the bench today and offered nothing. You know, he scored a couple of half-decent goals, particularly that header against West Brom before the break, but offered nothing. They just look what they are up front, inept. They look completely impotent up front. And yeah, Ruben has got a massive job on, hasn't he? And you know, he would have seen today. Look, he would have seen plenty of positives in that performance. He would have seen plenty of encouragement. But ultimately, what he's seen is a team that have lost again, that have conceded a goal again, that haven't scored again, and are now bottom of the table. And look, I don't want to be the harbour of doom, because I always try and be glass half full. And as I say, I thought there was a lot to like about that performance for the most part, although they did lose their way at the back end of the second half when they just couldn't. You know, Blackburn were fairly comfortable. But my big concern, as I've said all throughout the season, is where are the goals coming from? They just, all season, apart from those 3 wins where they scored 10 goals in 3 games, or QPR, Cardiff and Stoke, or whatever order that was in, Stoke, QPR and Cardiff, where they scored a 4 and 2 threes. In no game this season have they scored more than 1 goal, and they don't look like scoring. This is the problem. They had a lot of, you know, I think they've had 14 shots today. They've hit the target with 6 or 7 of them. Casey Palmer mainly hit the target. But apart from him, the strikers look miles off it. They just don't look anywhere near scoring enough goals. And you have to say, as it stands, this team is they're going to get relegated. They are going to get relegated because they can't score goals. And that's not being the harbour of doom. That's just being realistic based on the 19 games we've seen. They're the lowest scorers in the division. They haven't scored more than 1. Sorry, they've only scored more than 1 in 3 games. And that was the 3 wins that we're just we're hanging on to those 3 wins because that's all we've had. So look, Ruben was here today. He you know, by the time he starts training on Monday, he would have watched every single game. I can almost guarantee it. He would have watched every single game of their season so far. He would have probably re-watched today's game 3 or 4 times. And he will know exactly where he needs to improve. Now, from what I've been told, he knows that he isn't going to be able to, you know, make wholesale changes overnight. The issue he's got is between now and March. The only time he's got between now and March on the training pitch is in between games. He hasn't got an international break until the end of March, so he's going to have to drip feed things in. You know, you think of his first week in charge. He starts properly on Monday, which is his first training session. He'll have another training session on Tuesday. Then here we will meet him and he'll do all his interviews and all that sort of jazz. Then Wednesday we've got Watford here. Thursday will be recovery day. Friday we'll be training and then travel to Coventry for the 12:30 kickoff at Coventry next Saturday. And then he'll have a clear week going into the game against Swansea City. But there isn't a huge amount of time, so he's going to need to do like quick wins, quick fixes to get things going. Look, I would expect him to make. I would expect Wednesday night we'll see a different. If you think back 2 years to Liam Rossini's first game in charge, he had, I think he had 48 hours from when he took over on the Thursday to Millwall away on the Saturday, and he made a difference. You know, he got a 0-0 draw, and that was with Oscar Estepina sent off at the Den just before half time. So Liam made an instant impact. You could see there was the way that their shape, their organisation, the way they're doing things. Liam made quick changes, and I think Ruben will do similar. He has to. But as I say, you look at that performance today. There isn't much wrong with it. That's the funny thing. There isn't. You know, you think back to Sheffield Wednesday, and that was a sacking performance. Obviously, Tim got sacked, and they were awful. But you walk away from the game today, and you go, I actually think they've played quite well. They've lost to a free goal, and they've not scored, but in their actual manner of their performance, their shape, their control, their build-up, generally was all right. I don't think there's too much you can criticise them about today, apart from the obvious thing is they couldn't score. They couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And so I think he will be encouraged by what he's seen. But the reality of the piece is, of course, City are bottom of the table, 6 defeats in a row, 11 games without a win, couldn't score in a you-know-what. And that is the problem. And that is something that he is going to have to change, and change quickly. Hopefully, after a couple of training sessions, he can make a couple of quick changes. And we'll see a reaction against Watford on Wednesday. I mean, Watford aren't great away from home this season. They're doing well at home under Tom Cleverley. Their game today was called off because of the weather, so they would have had a long break. 10 days without a game? Again, you can fit that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Ultimately, come 10 o'clock on Wednesday night, we'll know whether that was a good thing for Watford or not. But yeah, look, he will know. Ruben will know exactly what he needs to do. And ultimately that is try and find a way to get his strikers scoring goals, because at the minute they're not, and the goals aren't coming from anywhere else either, in fairness. We can criticise Bedia, we can criticise Mason Burstow, João Pedro, we can criticise them fine, but nobody else in the team is scoring, are they? They've all dried up. You're not getting any goals from Charlie Hughes rattled one wide late on. You're not scoring goals from corners, so your centre halves, McLoughlin or Jones or Charlie Hughes, you're getting nothing from your wing backs, be that Louis Coyle or Cody Drame, who wasn't in the team today, or Gilo. Your midfielders, Palmer didn't score, Slater passed up a couple of good opportunities, didn't score, Kamara should have scored, didn't score. The list goes on. So yeah, we hammer the strikers for not scoring, but nobody else in the team is helping them out either. Nobody's chipping in with a goal from a set play or a shot from the edge of the box. So that is a fundamental problem, but look, I do think we'll see a response. I think the manager can make he can make quick wins. He can put his arm around certain players and give them some confidence, give them some belief, because obviously, look, the effect of the Walter era is going to be on for a period of time. That is going to take a while to get out of the system. Look, it doesn't look great, does it? We're early weeks of December and they're bottom of the table. They've gone from being 7th in May to bottom in December. That however you dress it up, that is a catastrophic collapse. It's incredible, and you have to pinch yourself that City have gone from drawing 3-3 with Ipswich in an absolutely pulsating encounter and going to Plymouth on the final day with a chance of getting in the top 6 to being bottom. And they may well be bottom at Christmas unless something changes drastically, and that is a worry. And the worry, you have to say, is they're 2 points adrift to safety. Wednesday night that could be 5, and next Saturday that could be 8. And very quickly, when you are bottom and you're not winning games and you're losing regularly, that can become a real problem. Very, very quickly you can get cut adrift, and if you are bottom at Christmas, it's very difficult to get out of it. Once that stranglehold of the bottom 3 gets hold of you and everything starts to go against you, form, whatever else, it's hard to get out of. So they've got to get out of it quickly. And on the flip side of that, a win on Wednesday night against Watford, and they could be a point clear of the bottom 3 and suddenly feeling a bit brighter about things going to Coventry. And then they could win at Coventry and suddenly you could be 4 points above the bottom 3 and you're starting to put distance. So look, as much as I'm saying very quickly they could get cut adrift, it could also go the other way, and we hope to God that it does. But you have to be realistic and look at what's in front of you, and results and form dictate. And I've been saying this for weeks, long before Walter was sacked, that this team has relegation scrap or relegation worry written all over it, because they can't stop goals going in at one end and they can't score at the other. And that is, again, you don't have to have a science degree in football to know that's a recipe for disaster. So look, I'm really excited by Selles. He was the guy that January, I think January is absolutely massive, isn't it? And he will be back. The owner will back him in January, but it remains to be seen what they can and can't do. Obviously, I think we said a while ago that they've got a problem. Their squad is maxed out. So in terms of the EFL, so they're going to they can deregister players, which will give them space in their squad. So they'll obviously deregister Zambrano, Liam Miller and Mohamed Baloumi, because Baloumi and Miller are out for the season. Zambrano suspended. for a period of time. So that's 3 players they're allowed to bring in straight away. But they will have. I wouldn't be surprised to see Selles look at the squad and think, right, I need to get rid of him, and him. He's not going to play. We'll get rid of him. I don't think I'd be surprised if there were wholesale changes. They've also got to be mindful of PSR, FFP, whatever you want to call it. And that situation is tricky, because in the last reporting period they've sacked Liam Rossini and paid him and his staff. They've now sacked Tim Walter and his staff, and brought in Ruben Selles. Had to pay Reading, albeit not a huge amount, but you know it's more money that the club have had to pay off towards PSR. So you know their funds in January are going to be limited, I think. So there's going to be a bit of wheeling and dealing, but they're going to have to sign somebody, and they need to try and find some attacking players that can make a difference, given the fact that Liam Miller and Bellumi are now out for the year, which is an absolutely critical blow, isn't it? Paul, do you think the majority of players in the squad are good enough? I do, yeah, I do. Look, it's easy when they're bottom of the table to slam them and say they're all rubbish and none of them are good enough. I think there's problems in the squad, yes, but a lot. You know, you look at that team and a few of those players were good enough to be a playoff team for much of last season. So, you know, Alfie Jones, Louis Coyle, you know, Sean McLoughlin was in and out of the team. Abdou showed glimpses. Regan Slater. So there's a call there that last season were good. Those players were good enough, weren't they? Casey Palmer was in a team that got to the playoff final, got to an FA Cup final. I'm not sure about Bedia and Pedro and Burstow. Kamara is a young player that needs some inspiration from the manager to get the best out of him. But you know, there were players there that were good enough last season. So it's about the manager getting the best out of them this season. I think Alfie Jones is a prime example. I think Alfie has found it really difficult this year. And I know people will say that, you know, he was only good last year because of Jacob Greaves. I don't think that is fair. I think Alfie's a very, very good player at this level. But I think he was flummoxed by what he was being asked to do. So I'm hoping now that under a more normal approach, he can just get on and focus on defending and doing what he's good at. Yeah, Gilo, Peter, you're right. Ryan Giles for Middlesbrough was the best left back in the league. He got what 12, 13, 14 assists. He hasn't looked anything like that since he's come here. So now it's up to the manager and also Ryan to deliver and get the best out of him. But if you can, obviously there's a player there. So their squad is weak in some areas. Their squad is now weak out wide, and it's painfully weak up front. And ultimately, games are won and lost in both penalty areas, but ultimately in the top half of the pitch. And if they can find some goals from somewhere, they'll be okay. But they've got to start doing that, and that is the big approach. In January, we know they want a number 6. We know they're probably going to want a winger, but yeah, look, January is going to be massive, isn't it? January is going to be absolutely huge, but you can't just pin your hope on January and go, well, we'll wait till January and hopefully that at some point in January we'll sign some players that make it better. By that point, it's going to be, it could be, the situation could be worse, the league position could be worse, and attracting players in January when you're bottom of the championship is difficult. Who's going to want to come to a team that are bottom of the table? You know, you might get somebody in a loan, but that's not easy. They were in a great position last January because they could attract Fabio Carvalho because they were pushing for the top 6. They were pushing for promotion to the Premier League. Players wanted to come and play for Liam. They wanted to come and be part of Hull City because they thought there was a genuine chance of them getting in the Premier League. Well, there isn't any chance of them getting in the Premier League. That's gone. There's no chance of that now. So that you're then fishing in a different type of pond for players coming in. So, you know, that creates its own problems. Why are the players what are the players coming for? Are they coming for genuine, do they want to come to Hull City in January for genuine reasons, that they want to come and play for this football club, they want to come and play for this manager, not just because they're going to get paid well, and that if it goes belly up and they get relegated, they're off in the summer, they don't really care. So that is a problem that they're going to have to contend with, and that's why it's imperative that over the next 3 or 4 weeks, particularly between now and the end of the month, they get some wins on the board and get themselves at least out of the bottom 3 and looking up the table, and potential new recruits go, actually, yeah, they're in a bit of form, the manager's new, he's bright, I want to play for him, actually the future looks bright. At the minute, they're bottom of the table and it doesn't. You know, we can only talk about the new manager. The reality, if we look at the reality, it doesn't look great, and that is what they're going to have to contend with in the market against teams higher up the, we know in the Championship, Hull City are going to be competing for the same sort of players that other teams in the Championship are going to be competing for. Probably teams that are pushing for the playoffs. Blackburn, Middlesbrough will be going for the same sort of players that Hull City were. We saw it this summer. We saw Tommy Conway. There were teams go in the league going for Tommy Conway. City were one of them. He went to Middlesbrough, scored last weekend. Ben Doak from Liverpool, Middlesbrough went for him, and so did Hull City. He went to Middlesbrough. Tom Cannon, City wanted him, as did other teams in the Championship. He went to Stoke City. The point I'm trying to make is that City will be fishing in a similar pond to other teams in the Championship, and the teams that are high up the league are going to get the first pick. City will end up with, players that probably nobody else wants, unless they're really creative in the transfer market, and that is the challenge for them, isn't it? So look, that's where we're at. There's a lot of water to pass under the bridge. What we do know is that the new manager takes charge on Monday. He has a game on Wednesday. We will be speaking to him here on Tuesday to find out what his vision is, what he thinks of the current situation, and ultimately the need to get 3 points, because you don't have to be Stevie Wonder to realise that City need 3 points very quickly, and that needs to come starting on Wednesday. Couple of quick points to raise. Alfie Jones and Xavier Simons were both out injured today, but they are, it's hope, will be back for Wednesday night. We'll get another update, I'm sure, in the next few days, but they were left out today as a precaution. We hope they'll be back for the weekend. We'll be recording the 1904 Club at some point on Monday. I've got to take my car in for a service, so I'll try and figure that one out. But do get in touch at the 1904 Club on Twitter. And as I say, there'll be plenty more to come from here over the next couple of days, and we'll be with Ruben on Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to speaking to him. Yeah. Stay safe out there, because it's like the bleak midwinter. Thanks for watching, everybody. Keep in touch, and we'll see you again soon.